Okay, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's decision-making meeting for Planning, Regeneration and Economic Development. I'll do a quick bit of housekeeping, and then I think it'd be helpful just to go around the room in case anyone's watching at home and needs to know who is speaking at any given time. So, a bit of housekeeping. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If the fire alarm does go off, then we should use the stairs, not the lift, and congregate outside in the Guildhall Square near the Queen Victoria statue. And please be aware that we are streaming today's meeting, so if you're in the room, be aware there is a camera over there in the corner and being streamed live, as well as being kept for as the official record for today's meeting. If any members of the public do happen to come in and have a reason to speak, then they will have the opportunity to say that they do not necessarily wish to be recorded if that is the situation. I've not received any official requests to make deputations. Have we had anything last minute, Vicky, that you know about?
No, we haven't, Chair.
Wonderful. Can you quickly go around the room and just say who we are so that when Fiona quotes us that she gets our job titles correct? I'm Ben Dowling. I am the Cabinet Member for Planning, Regeneration and Economic Development.
I'm Councillor Donna Jones. I'm the Conservative Spokesman for Planning, Regeneration and Economic Development.
I'm Claire Upton-Brown. I'm the Assistant Director, City Development.
I'm Jane Singh, Visitor Services and Development Manager.
I'm Mike Sellers, Port Director, Portsmouth International Port.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Webb, Finance Manager at the Ports.
Afternoon, Tristan Samuels, Director of Regeneration.
Vicky Pleathouse, Democratic Services.
Wonderful. Shall we start the main agenda? Apologies for absence. I've not received any. I'm aware that Councillor Smythe is not in the room, but as far as we know, she is en route and intends to come, so we will anticipate her arrival. Is Councillor Smythe isn't precluded from speaking on anything if she arrives late?
No.
Okay, wonderful. In which case, declarations of members' interests, I have none. Councillor Jones? No, wonderful. Okay, item 3, over to Jane. Portsmouth and the visitor economy.
Thank you. The report gives an update on marketing activity undertaken by the Visitor Services team in 2017 and 2018 to promote Portsmouth in line with the agreed strategy. It demonstrates how the team have made the most of the budget available by working with partners and outlines the planned marketing activity for the rest of the 2018-19 financial year. As I'm sure most people are aware, tourism is crucial to the city's economy. It contributes over £610 million each year and supports just under 13,000 jobs. We've seen a number of recent improvements over the last couple of years, such as the new D-Day Story Museum opening, the Mary Rose unveiling their new offer, Hot Wall Studios being developed in Old Portsmouth, new sporting and music events, and the arrival, of course, of HMS Queen Elizabeth. We work constantly to strengthen the Portsmouth Great Waterfront City brand, which is now being used by transport on new signage as you come into the city, on taxi company livery, and Waterfront is part of the new Gunwharf Quays brand. And, of course, we use it on all our major marketing campaigns that we do. The report also gives an overview of how the current strategy was developed and then goes into kind of an overview of all the marketing activity with outcomes where available. So a quick run through the headlines. We produce annually a range of marketing collateral in the form of A4 brochures and mini guides, and the team, our very small team, sells the advertising for those so that they are completely self-financing. And by bringing that into our team last year, has enabled me to support another part-time member of staff, which has helped us increase the marketing we're able to do. We look after the Visit Portsmouth website, the associated social media, any newsletters. In 2017-18, we had seasonal campaigns around city breaks, coastal and wellness, cultural tourism, which really were highlighting the breadth of offer across the destination and, where possible, linking to Visit England and Visit Britain campaigns so that it gives them a bit more support. We had a big London Underground campaign, a main season one in August, supported by a digital campaign, and that was with partners under the auspices of Escape to the Waterfront, and we've repeated that again this year. We saw good growth on social media, Facebook and Twitter. We also look at, as I said, seasonal campaigns. We had a Christmas campaign last year as the Christmas offer is developing well in the city, especially with the new ice rink and Alpine Bar, and the offers all across different venues, and we will be repeating that again. Press and PR is a key part of our marketing tool. We have a service level agreement with Tourism South East, who are a regional tourism body, and they provide a bespoke service on press and PR for us as part of that. We've had a number of good journalist visits and some good national and international coverage, including both Telegraph and Sunday Times coverage for D-Day. And we had a really good visit by Chinese journalists as well. Visitor information-wise, we opened a new visitor information pod in the new bus station at the Hard, which is supported and financed by the sale of gifts and the vended food and drink that we have there. That pays for the member of staff, and it's been really well received. And we also have points at the D-Day Story and Portsmouth Museum. And that small team also manages the tourist guiding service for the city and Portsmouth Greeters. We've attended a range of group market trade fairs with partners. And on the business tourism side, we have worked with Hampshire Conference Bureau, supporting familiarisation visits of conference organisers into the city. This financial year, much of it is ongoing activity that we've, the same as we've done the previous year. Internationally, Europe is our key kind of target, the northern swathe of Europe. We buy into campaigns with Tourism South East for Northern Europe and Scandinavia, and we also, with partners, go to 3 key trade shows in Holland, Belgium and Germany. We also work closely with the International Port and Brittany Ferries, of course, to promote to their passengers. China and USA are the next key markets after the north of Europe, and those really are through attending international marketing events run by Visit England and Visit Britain, such as Explore GB, World Travel Market, and by buying into other campaigns. We've had a big push this year for D-Day, and we continue to do so throughout this financial year for the 75th anniversary next year. We're looking much more at always-on marketing so that we run concurrent campaigns highlighting the breadth of the offer we have available. And seasonal campaigns, as I mentioned before. Currently, we're pushing the Heritage Open Days, for example. Portsmouth Champions is an online training module that we managed to get funding for, and that has been really well received across the destination. It's something we'll push out much more now that staff who work on the front line, hopefully not too quiet, but slightly quieter, might have the time to take that up. And we had another London campaign this July with partners, and that'll be repeated in October half term. It's the first time we've done it in October as well. We managed to get another partner on board, which enables us to spread that campaign. And working with the International Port and their team looking at cruise, we've developed and produced a number of itineraries for cruise passengers, and they'll also be used for the group market. We've tried to latch on where we can to Discover England funded projects that are come through Visit England and Visit Britain, and Portsmouth are part of the US Connections and Creating England's Literary Legends programmes. And we also are just about to complete some qualitative research, which we've taken place this summer with Tourism South East, so we'll have some figures coming out very soon about that.
Okay, thank you very much, Jane. It's a very comprehensive report. Councillor Jones, do you have any comments or questions? We'll take them together.
Yeah, comments. Thank you very much. I mean, it feels a bit strange to be sat here because this is a culmination, obviously, of a lot of work through you, Chair, that I did with the economic development team and the visitor economy team. And I think it's so commendable. I think it's really encouraging for the future. I think it, bodes well in terms of the number of partnerships we've got. And I think if we tried to do any of these things on our own, the budget we would put on our own simply wouldn't be that great. And when you look at on the back of the report, it breaks down the cost 5.9, and that's just an example of one of the campaigns that obviously have been run over the last couple of years. And I remember the first campaign we did with the London Underground and how much feedback that we had when it said, thinking of Dubai, think again Portsmouth Harbour, and a picture of the Spinnaker Tower. And there were 5 or 6 different images they used around the London Underground, but actually that particular one was very, very effective. I think that also, maybe not directly through us, but the Historic Dockyard have had their campaign on ITV as well over the summer period, which again I'm sure will undoubtedly feed into this report next year into its success. And I remember having gone to London to an LGA meeting and pulling up at a station, Hazelmere or something, and sort of sat on a train board, looked out of the window, and there was a huge billboard with Ford cars, and there was a Ford car looking very shiny and new, plonked with a dark background of Gunwolf lit up at night with Spinnaker Tower, and this car was looking like it was going off to some kind of car disco or something with all these flashy lights. And I remember coming back and saying to Jane, Ford have actually choose Portsmouth as a backdrop in one of their national campaigns, and that actually was in a national newspaper. I saw the similar advert as well a few weeks later. I'm really pleased, 4.2, that the marketing and publications are now being done by the visitor services team. I think they are exceptionally high quality. I think we've got some real, some good people in there that are doing some really good things. I think that carrying on the partnership with China and the marketing and, looking to maybe develop a website in Mandarin or Cantonese or these sorts of things, which we'd spoken about previously, Jane, I think would be a really good thing to do. We've got plans for the Street Art Festival. The cruise market, as you say, is something that's been brewing away and growing nicely over the last couple of years. And I think that this is a great report, and I think it bodes very well for the future. So, yeah, well done to everyone, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Smythe, do you have anything to declare, and could you just introduce yourself in case anyone is watching at home?
I'm Judith Smythe, I'm councillor for St Jude's. I have no interest to declare at this meeting. I would endorse what Councillor Jones says about this report. I think it's very encouraging and bodes well. The only thing is it appropriate for me to...
Yeah, questions and comments.
Yes.
Sorry, you weren't here. I said
No.
we'll take questions and comments together.
Great.
And we'll just have a dialogue. There's not hundreds of people in here.
I assume that, Chair. No, thank you very much. The only thing I'd just comment for next time, or the next time we refresh the strategy, is that that table we've got, which shows impact of various activities, it seems to me that we need to combine it more closely with the nice little graphs there are showing the increase in activity, because only but then can we judge how successful all this activity is being to actually increase the number of tourists that are coming here. But I'm very pleased to see those graphs, which do show that it seems to be working, but they probably need to be married up a little bit more closely. So well done. I think certainly we've all noticed, particularly being down on the seafront quite a lot, how successful the seafront has been this year, particularly with the good weather. So we can hope for more good weather next year. We can have even more people down here. It's been very encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smythe. Jane, I just wanted to echo those comments. It's a really positive report, and I know you and the team work very hard with very little resource. I think the Appendix 4, the graphs demonstrating the different partners that have been engaged and contributing money towards different campaigns is a real positive, and demonstrates just how much we can achieve when working with others. And I am very grateful to those partners as well going forward, and please do pass that on to them from myself and from the Council overall. I think that's the main thing I wanted to say. In terms of moving forward, this is a strategy that's 2017 to 2020. At which point do we write the next one?
I think it's something I'll need to start looking into next year, in the new year.
Okay, wonderful. That's what I thought, just double checking. In which case, unless there are any further comments or questions, I'm minded to go with the recommendations, which are, for the record, Recommendation 1, note the annual achievements in the city's marketing and branding plans, particularly the buy-in from destination partners to support marketing campaigns. See, I said that without even noticing that's what the recommendation was. And secondly, to agree the continuation of the marketing communications plan for 2018-19 as shown in Appendix 2. Thank you very much, Jane. Are you staying with us, or are you off?
I'll leave if that's okay.
That is okay. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
your time. Okay, colleagues, agenda item 4, MMD and Portsmouth International Port trading results and capital outturn report 2017-18. Over to yourselves.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling. What I plan to do is to take you through a summary of the report and then take any questions thereafter. So, This particular report, it looks at the trading position of both Portsmouth International Port and MMD for 2017-18 and also the prior year. Table 1 shows the overall results of MMD, and it shows that in 2017-18 the company made a smaller profit than it made in the previous year. Table 2 shows the performance of the port, and it shows that in 17-18 the port generated a profit of more than 1.7 million more than it did in 16-17. Section 4 gives you the main reason why MMD's profit was lower in 17-18 than the previous period. And the main reason is because it lost two of its main customers. Geese transferred to Dover and coal carriers went into administration. Section 5 explains why the port's profit increased in 17-18 compared to the previous year. And the main reason for this is because the port signed a new agreement with its key operator, which led to the increased profit overall. Sections 6 and 7 take you through the capital programmes of the two companies, and it shows that for MMD, its key capital expenditure in 17-18 was 1.7 million invested in a new forklift fleet. Over the same period, the port spent 8.7 million on capital, and most of that was attributable to the new link span. So this is the piece of equipment that connects the ship to the shore, acts as a drawbridge. Moving on to section 8, that gives you an overview of the statistics. So table 4 shows that throughput in MMD in 17-18 was about 20% lower than the previous year for the reasons that we've already spoken about. And table 5 shows that the throughput at the port was about the same as in 16-17. There was a very small reduction. And finally, moving on to section 9, this gives a forecast for the two companies over the medium-longer term. MMD's board remain optimistic that the prospects for the company are positive. MMD is continuing to pursue various business opportunities and is investing in a diversification strategy. So what it's doing is, as well as retaining and attracting more fruit business, it's also looking to diversify into various general cargoes. And the port, it's forecast to generate a good profit in 18-19, and thereafter, year on year, its profits are forecast to increase. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much for that detailed report. Comments, questions, queries, colleagues?
You're looking at me like...
What?
Okay. Mike is looking at me like he's I think he's looking at me willingly as a director of the company to be nice, which obviously I will do. I think that this company has been on such a journey over the last 8 or 9 years, but probably no more so than over the last... When did Steve start? A year ago? April last year, yeah. So when we brought in a new general manager who came from the private sector, came from ABP, and I think with him and Mike, I know Mike's in the room, but I cannot underestimate to people the change that they've made in the culture, the practices, and a whole load of other things there. I mean, I think for me, and I know I'm almost an outsider, but I am, as I say, for the last few months, been a director of the company. I know, Councillor Dowling, you are as well now, that I think the company feels very different to me. The feedback I've had from staff is that it feels very different. And the diversification of the, if it wasn't for the diversification of the business model, I would be very worried now, thinking, well, hang on a minute, if we lost, Geest and we lost coal carriers and, what's to say that we might not lose something else next year? Actually, by diversifying already with the MHI Vestas, with the wind turbine blades coming in, what we know is that you can get a really good income for far less effort and hassle. So actually the percentage profit margins are far higher, because actually, as much as having fruit coming into Portsmouth is wonderful, and I'm not saying we should stop doing that, there are some fantastic opportunities, and certainly that site's got great capacity. And I think one of the things that we'll be discussing at the AGM and the next board meeting that we have coming up is just exactly how far we want to go with that diversification, but still staying obviously within a shipping company and using that quayside, or those two quaysides, as best we possibly can. The company certainly, I think, brings USP to Portsmouth. The synergy with Portsmouth International Port right next door, it works very well because of the port dues that the port also receives from it. And, you know, I think that the future is looking bright. It's a shame that we were on the ascent. There's been a little blip, but you never know. Geese may want to come back. Maybe they're not that happy in Dover. Who knows? So I think the future's bright, and I note the facts. They are facts. We can't really, you know, they are what they are. But yeah, looking forward to the next meeting that Councillor Stanning and I have with the board.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Can I just check? I assume it's not a declaration of interest because we're appointed by the council. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes, but you've said it anyway. So
Okay,
yeah.
wonderful. Just as soon as you said it, Councillor Jones, it made me think, hang on, 5 minutes ago we both said actually there are no interests, but just for the record, because we're appointed by the council, there are no interests to declare. Councillor Smythe, anything from you?
No, but Chair, I'm very conscious that this is an area of our business I need to get very familiar with, and the next item I will talk a little bit more about how I might familiarise myself with what's going on. The next agenda item.
No worries. I was just reminding myself what the next agenda item was, but that makes more sense now that I've looked. In which case, Mike, Mark, thank you very much for the report. Very much appreciated. I'm loving the tie. That's definitely very on brand. Mike, you'll have to, I know, this MMD and the port are obviously an integral part of the council, both financially and in terms of our culture and what we want to do and say to the outside world. So I think I echo Donna's thanks to Mike and the new top team in particular, but actually the port does an enormous amount for the city, both in terms of the finance it brings into the council, but actually in terms of the finance it brings into the wider economy as well. And I think the future is very positive. It's one of the first things I made sure I was up to date on when becoming the cabinet member this year, and I'm very grateful for Mike and other officers, in fact, dealing with the change of administration as well. So thank you very much both. I think we can note this report. So it is therefore noted, and we will move on to agenda item 5, which again back to the both of you for the Portsmouth Marine Safety Code annual external audit findings.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll take this one. Not the finance manager's strength. Okay, so this report really is around what we call the Port Marine Safety Code. Just to explain what that is, we are a competent harbour authority, so we're responsible for the safe navigation of the commercial shipping. So there is a link, obviously, to Queen's Harbour Master and the dockyard, but we have our own harbour master, we have our own pilots, and we're bound by the Port Marine Safety Code for the safe navigation of those vessels in and out of the harbour. So as officers of the port, of the council, we commission an independent audit on an annual basis just to ensure that we are compliant and there are no non-conformances, or if there are non-conformances, that we have a corrective action to put those right. So this report is the result of an independent audit that was carried out by a company called Marico Marine and Risk Consultants Limited. I won't go through it in too much detail other than to advise you that as members under the Port Marine Safety Code, you are the duty holders for the port and for the Port Marine Safety Code. And I'll go on to that in a little bit more detail when we look at the recommendations. I'm pleased to say that the report didn't bring up any major non-conformances or any minor non-conformances. What it did do was it brought up some observations. So these are not necessarily recommendations, but it's best practice, and we do follow best practice. In terms of the observations, the first one was that due to the local elections in May, that there were some new councillors, and as a result of that, our harbour master will be writing to the new councillors to advise them on the Port Marine Safety Code and their responsibilities as duty holders. The second one was the environmental policy statement, which is it's more of a housekeeping issue and something that we've already put right on the website for the Port Marine Safety Code. The third one is around the safety management system aligned to the Guide to Good Practice on the Port Marine operations, and again that's another housekeeping issue which we've put that one right. The next one is around our training. We have a compliance manager that looks at the training at the ports. We have over the last year changed our HR services from the port to the council, so we're using the council HR services. So it's important that any expiry of any certificates related to marine matters are picked up in advance and that we have those refreshers in the training. So that's something that the compliance manager is linking in with the HR services here at the council. And finally, it is recommended that the Southampton Vessel Traffic Services, VTS, and Queen's Harbour Master at Portsmouth are advised on the port's passage plan of a boat. And what that means is there are several points, depending on the size of the vessels, if the berth's not ready, that we have the ability to turn the vessels around and take them back out to the Solent. And the Harbour Master will be advising Southampton as well as the Queen's Harbour Master where those positions are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Comments and queries from colleagues? Judith?
I mean, this report is one of several that just reminded me how much there is to learn being a new councillor. I'd very much appreciate a visit rather than just a letter. We obviously, I imagine, in a position where we would face corporate manslaughter responsibilities should anything go very badly wrong at the port. Is that right? Because we're owners of the business.
Yeah, that is correct, and that's where the duty holder responsibility is. So if you imagine anything that's land side is covered by the Health and Safety Executive, on the marine side it's the MCA, but it's the same principle.
So in particular, I'd be interested in a briefing on risks and on both sides of the land side and the sea side of the risks and how we're managing them, and those sorts of things, which I presume the board look at regularly anyway.
The board absolutely do, and I think that's very sensible. Are you happy to meet with Judith to talk through some of that?
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor. I'm quite happy to do that, but I believe you're on the Port Advisory Board as well.
I am.
So we have got, I think it's in September, we've got the Port Advisory Board, and that will be an agenda item as well.
It would be helpful for me to have a meeting before the advisory board, then I'll know a bit more about what our responsibilities are and what I'm talking about. I'm extremely interested in this, and I think it's a very important part of our portfolio in Portsmouth. The main things I'm interested in, given those responsibilities, is the health and safety, the risk analysis. I'm very pleased to read about the finances. I would be very interested to hear what the board is doing about analysing the risk of Brexit to the port, which I would understand would be enormous given the need to possibly go through customs. So that would be another area that I think, and that would have a knock-on effect for the rest of the city too. So there are a number of issues that I look to you if I could perhaps arrange a meeting to come over. It needs to be on a Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, but subject to other commitments in the council. I would be really pleased to have a proper briefing and a walk round.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll arrange that for you. But actually, just to kind of add to that, I met with Councillor Dowling and the leader on Friday last week. And one of the recommendations from Councillor Dowling, the leader, which I thought was a good recommendation, was that we had an open day for the members, for the councillors. So we'll pick a day in which the councillors can come to the port and have a look at what we do, just to understand what we provide really for the council.
That would be great. For me, it has to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday at the moment, and I will certainly be there. I think it's a really important aspect of our work.
Okay. So I think two small actions coming out of that. Can we just do a short briefing for Judith to have a look around and just understand herself as the Pred spokesperson? And you beat me to it, Mike. I was going to say that, etc. But I think that having that open to all councillors so that all councillors have a full understanding of the port and the impact it has. I already stated just how important it is for the council, but my worry is that beyond this room, the level of knowledge is not as high as it perhaps should be. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Yeah, and if it's on one of the days when one of the big container ships is in, it's really impressive. So it'd be great if it could be on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when that's in as well. And also, just to clarify on a point that you made, actually, if you don't mind, a question you asked, Judith, is that if there was a corporate manslaughter, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be MMD as the employer that would be the charge to be taking against. Where we come in as the corporate responsibility for councillors is if the council as the parent company had not interjected when there had been a breach of any of the statutory responsibilities. So it's a bit convoluted, but anyway. Yeah, thank you for this.
So in the light of that, I want to reassure myself that we had done that. Sorry to interrupt.
Mike, do you want to just clarify the situation?
Yeah, sorry, can I just clarify that that's for the land side for the MMD operations, but this is specific to the marine operations, Port Marine Safety Code,
that's
which
the MMD,
is
yes,
the
you're right,
port,
sorry. In fact, the question I was going to ask you then is actually not relevant because I was going to ask you when our health and safety chap left, has the replacement started? But that's also MMD, so I'm confusing the two, I apologise. I've got no questions, thank you very much.
In which case, Mike, thank you very much for the report, and it is duly noted. We will move on to item 6. This is a forward plan emission in relation to the drift in the city and the proposed demolition of it. Claire, could you just quickly tell us why we need to do it now?
In terms of why the report now, as officers were keen to demolish the drift in the city to enhance the public realm works that have already occurred in connection with Chaucer House. The timing of it is such that we would want to carry out demolition in advance of any of the Christmas activities, including the ice rink in the Guildhall Square and the market. So in terms of sort of health and safety and our challenges around managing the built environment in quite a tight area, the reason for bringing this report forward today is to actually enable us to move on this within a short time period, to not conflict with other activities that will be happening within the area over the Christmas period.
Thank you, Claire. So just to clarify for people at home, this wasn't published on our official forward plan for August through to October for this year, which was published in mid-August. And it's partly because of me being new in position. I hadn't got far ahead enough of myself to make sure it was on the forward plan in advance. And just for clarification, Vicky, could you confirm that the Scrutiny Management Panel Chair has been informed and is happy?
I can confirm that, Chair, and he is happy.
Wonderful. In which case, we will note the omission to the forward plan and the publication of the omission notice be noted. In which case, can we move on to item 7? Unless members, sorry, apologies. Did colleagues have any problem with the forward plan omission? I didn't think so. Okay. Item 7, drifts in the city, proposed demolition. Claire, could you introduce this for us?
Yes, you have a report before you seeking authority to demolish drift in the city. The report sort of sets out the purpose of the demolition, which is to establish a unified space between Isambard Brunel Road, Commercial Road, the railway station, the Guildhall and Victoria Park, but also to enhance the pedestrian link between Isambard Brunel and Victoria Park. An area that we see will be performing a different function with the introduction of the developments that are about to be completed and about to commence at the former Chaucer House and the VAT Group opposite the station. But also, really importantly, the removal of the drift in the city will open up views to and a context for the city's war memorial, which the Grade 2 star listed structure and will contribute to the cultural regeneration of this part of the city centre. The report sets out the background to this in that the current SPD, which was adopted by the Council in 2013, identifies the opportunity to improve public realm within this area, including the demolition of this building. This obviously is well underway with the developments that have occurred, and particularly the development around Chaucer, which removed a bus lay-by and has created an enhanced public realm. The site itself was identified with the adjoining site with demolition and potential future redevelopment of the adjoining site, and the SPD sets out a vision for an improved public realm and refers to it as Eisenbar Place. The report confirms that over a period of time the site has been marketed as a potential premises for rent. There has been interest in the premises over a period of time, but these initial interests have not been pursued due to the quality of the building and some other factors. The report sets out the financial implications of the demolition of this building. The building itself is in need of substantial investment to bring it back into into active use, and that's reflected in the lack of interest from the market to take this premises on. The financial implications are set out in your report in terms of the cost of the refurbishment work, the value of it, and the potential rental. Further, in the financial section of the report, we've set out the cost of demolishing the building and reinstating it at £155,000. The council previously approved in a previous budget round some public realm improvements for this area, which was a £500,000 capital programme bid for public realm improvements. And so the cost of the demolition and improvements and the reinstatement and improvement of the public realm will be taken out of this capital budget. The recommendation is set out in the report.
Thank you very much, Claire. Colleagues? Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much. Well, this is an item that's been kicking around for a very long time and came across my desk several times over the 4 years that I was both leader of the council and the cabinet for planning, regeneration and economic development. I don't support the officer's report to demolish the building, and mostly because we haven't yet heard back on the Heritage Lottery bid that we're putting in for Victoria Park, which we submitted and put forward money in our budget this year to match fund 250k approximately in our capital budget to go towards a Heritage Lottery bid of £2.5 million. Now, had that have been secured and we were about to do a whole new, entrance and redevelopment of Victoria Park, I would like to see a much bigger master plan coming forward for the park and how this entranceway and the connection to the War Memorial was really important. But from my perspective, reading this document, the building is dire. Something needs to happen. I agree with that. But I don't remember this site being marketed in the last 2 or 3 years. It certainly wasn't marketed under my tenure because we were waiting to see what was happening with the co-op next door, with the freehold and the long lease. And when you look at these figures, you've got a building which is estimated to be worth £300,000 or £400,000 at the moment, and I think that is being generous because I think it's in a very bad state of repair. I've walked around the whole building literally in March, April this year. I think it was March time. It's not very nice inside. It does need a lot of work, but it is a big space. It has 2 very large bars on the first ground floor and first floor. There is a stage area. It does need work doing to it, but there's also outdoor space as well. I think the space behind it could be improved dramatically to be more sympathetic towards the War Memorial. But here you have, a proposal to spend £150,000 to end up with a walkway, which could improve the area, I'm not denying that, or to spend potentially £300,000, but get an income of £75,000 a year, which means it would pay back within 4 years and double the value of the asset, take it up from 300 to potentially £600,000, £700,000, £800,000. And actually, whilst there have been there has been interest from the private sector in this site over the last few years, it's been people proactively just coming to us and saying, what's happening with that empty building? It's not been because we've really tried to push it in any way. So without the agreed comprehensive plan on Victoria Park, which we had already started working on under my tenure, the bid has been prepared, or was about to be prepared and submitted to Heritage Lottery for Victoria Park to completely overhaul one of the city's, if not the city's best park, which I do fully support. But I think that knocking down an asset that could bring in an income, and we've already put the capital aside to do the 300 grand worth of works, you could be then generating for the portfolio, you know, £75,000 a year. It is right next door to the new Catherine House student development. It is right opposite now a, you know, budget hotel, which brings a lot of footfall with it next to the train station. There is going to be a Hampton by Hilton being built the other side. This is surely an asset which is in a great location, which actually we should be retaining and utilising for income. This is a short-sighted decision, and that's why when it came across my desk, I didn't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. I've got a couple of comments and questions that Tristan and Claire can answer coming out of what you've said, but so that we can have a full discussion. Councillor Smythe, did you want to come in?
I've got some questions with this. I understand the arguments that are being made in favour of this, but I wondered if there were some further things I needed to know. It did seem to me that it was premature, particularly in the light of the possible regeneration of Victoria Park and the money that might come with that. But I also wondered what the links were with this and the new student accommodation and the the Hilton Hotel, and felt that it's quite. I mean, an asset worth 300,000 is quite a lot to lose. If we marketed it again, whether somebody else would invest, I wasn't convinced that the financial analysis of this and the market business analysis was up to date and was. It didn't really quite convince me. So I've got just some questions about the timing of this. I can see it would be quite nice, but I can't understand yet the whole context where it would fit in terms of the improvements to that whole area, which is quite a big thing. And I wondered if it wasn't worth having another little go at marketing it for either for short-term use or for further long-term use, because it's quite a lot of capital value to lose. So I had questions about it, really.
Okay, thank you both. Claire, it might be worth just talking through with colleagues the City Centre Master Plan and how this relates to it, because it's obviously a document that all councillors have agreed with and it moves forward.
So, working under the current City Centre Master Plan, which was adopted in 2013 following the last adoption of the last local plan. So, within the area around the station, we'd identified the development opportunities for Greetham Street, which is now student accommodation, for Chaucer House, and the sites around the former Zurich building, which includes the site to the north, which is now under construction for Travel Lodge, and then the site between the original Zurich House building and the railway station, which now has permission and a presence on the site for a hotel and a block of residential accommodation. As part of that overall master planning piece, we identified that there was significant investment required in the public realm, including the removal of subways and underpasses, changes to the width of roads, the materials, around the whole of the site. And we've worked with the Developers Unite, in part through our ownership of the site, and we worked in partnership between property and planning to sell that site and ensure that the development carried out the public realm improvements that contributed to the wider picture, but also to support those conversations and discussions. As a team, we produced a overall public realm strategy for the area, so that it sat within the discussions with Unite and indeed the discussions we've had with that group on the adjoining site. The extract that's appended to the plan that identifies public realm improvements on the drift in the city space is part of a wider piece of public realm design that we've worked with Unite and that group on, led by us as a council, to actually identify how collectively we improve the public realm, some of which sits within those two development sites and will be delivered through the development. It was all sort of clearly set out and adopted in the local, in the SPD, the previous SPD, and then formed the subject of the capital bid 2 years ago.
Thank you, Claire. I think that does help to put a bit more context on this. I think the other thing to say is I completely appreciate the thinking around Victoria Park, and I'm keen to see what we hear back from the HLF bid as well. And I agree the park is an important asset for the city centre. I think where we probably disagree, Councillor Jones, is that from my perspective, whether the park gets that money or doesn't get that money, or when it gets its gets money to put towards it, either way we would want to improve that public realm and entranceway to the park, regardless of whether or not the park itself gets major regeneration, which we are all in favour of happening. And I think it's also very easy to look at the figures around the property value and say, well, we could get an ongoing income of X, but what is not necessarily part of that narrative is the increase in value from the improved public realm and the impact that has on the wider economy and the wider cultural surroundings of that public realm, which I think is incredibly valuable. And we as an administration are very keen on cultural regeneration and creating places that people want to live, work and visit, and part of that is making sure that we have the public spaces available for people to appreciate. I think Councillor Smythe, you made reference to some of the new hotels in the areas and the student housing, and actually I think both visitors who use hotels and students who are in the city for that period of time benefit greatly from this kind of public realm improvement, and we will also see an increase in the tree line as well. So I think there are a lot of positives to this recommendation, and I'm currently still minded to move ahead with it today. I think it's not a rushed decision in the sense that we've been looking at it for. The City Centre Master Plan was in 2013, but I can remember people talking about it before then. So let's call it at least 5 years, if not more. So I don't think it's necessarily, I wouldn't say it's a rushed decision. And I think there are real benefits going forward. I don't know, Tristan or Claire, I'm conscious that no one from the property team are specifically here, but are either of you able or feel confident commenting on the marketing of it as a building to date?
So Councillor Jones is right, no formal marketing's taken place. I mean, but we have had 3 different organisations come back, look at the property and confirm that they couldn't make it work as it stood. I think from my perspective, the property team's perspective, ordinarily we don't like to knock over existing assets, and where we can make them work, obviously that is a priority. In this particular instance, the drift doesn't really form a part of a long-term agenda, and investing in it for a short term also doesn't make a lot of sense in this situation. So it was debated at length in terms of what the right move was for the drift bar. And as you say, I think it's been that's the last 5 years of history, people talking about whether we could actually make something work. If it could have worked, it would have worked by now, and we've eventually, we've come up with a recommendation to move on. I'm optimistic that by removing it, the new landscaping won't necessarily hinder the Victoria Park master plan work, although we have, and it'll be something that we can build on, and potentially this might be the first part of that regeneration, and we can probably alter that as we move forward with our property strategy.
Thank you, Tristan. I'm not big on formality, so if either of you wish to come in further comment, I'm very happy for you to do so.
Wouldn't mind if you don't. Can I come on further comment? I mean, look, I'm a massive fan of regenerating that area because the public realm is, as I said in my opening comments, it's dire. And there's no bigger commitment to improving the public realm than putting your money where your mouth is. And that's exactly what we did last year and 2 years ago when we put money in for public realm improvements for Commercial Road. The first lot we did in 2014-15 capital budget, I think it was for the main concourse of Commercial Road, the pedestrianised area, and then earlier this year we have done the same by putting another chunk of money aside for this, and plus, as Claire referred to, the Unite SIL money that's come forward as well that needs to be spent in the area. So I think that something definitely needs to be done. I'm a huge fan of improving that whole area. I mean, Claire and I have had conversations over the last year around how that should happen. Councillor Stubbs was very involved in that. There was a proposal that was brought forward to potentially close the bottom of Commercial Road in front of the train station, linking round and closing the Isambard Brunel Road to cars, so that it was more of a pedestrianised area. I did not support that at that point because I think the pressure that would put onto other key roads around the area would be a concern for me. I don't know if that's part of the long-term strategy. It may not be now, but that was certainly one of the reasons why I was averse to it previously. I think we haven't marketed the site. I think the reason that we've got people that have come and looked round and seen it as it is don't like it is because it's dire. I think that there is very much merit in one of the things I did give consideration to was actually keeping the top 2 floors and knocking the ground floor down so that you get that walkway that I think Claire is, in the drawings and in her report is alluding to, where people come from the park and then be able to walk through towards the train station. You create that thoroughfare, which is very pleasant for the local area. It may be possible to do that, but still retaining something much more pleasant above if you then develop it. I think as well it would be a mistake for the council if this building is not knocked down, so if it's retained, to let this now, for example, on a 5-year rent-free period and then sort of an increasing rent thereafter, if a developer comes in, takes it as it is and does it themselves. I think that would be the wrong thing. I think the council should do the work themselves and then have a greater control over the tenancy and the leaseholder that goes in there, because as I say, there is the potential, we know, of the co-op coming up. We've had conversations with the freeholder of the co-op in the past, the agent that works for them we've also had conversations with, and surely for me that would be a much better development if it were to come forward for the council to potentially bring that forward as a really nice residential block that could have open space on the ground floor, people to walk around, so a building built on stilts, for example, and some residential above. I just think at the moment simply knocking it down is short-sighted. I don't think that's the right approach. I agree something needs to be done. I agree the public realm in between the station and this area needs to be improved dramatically. I do not think knocking it down is the right thing, and if it were me, I would not be supporting it.
Okay. Councillor Smythe, do you want any final comments or questions?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you both. I think this is one of those items, Councillor Jones, where we'll have to agree to disagree. I agree there is still significant development potential, especially with the adjoining site, and I am completely in favour of building homes for local people, and there is no question about that. But from my perspective, this is something we've talked about as a council for a large number of years. Whilst it hasn't been formally marketed, we have had commercial tenants come in and try to make best use of the site over a number of years, and Director of Regeneration has informed me that there are 3 to date in the last few years. So I'm minded that this is a sensible way going forward, and that actually the public realm improvement will have an overall positive impact that is greater than the impact of investing in the current building. And I think the other thing that we've not fully mentioned is we talked about the ongoing potential income from if we were to restore and get a tenant in for that building. But I think there is also a culture and leisure potential offer for income generation by having a public realm scheme as well. So that might be in the form of some sort of concession stand or stands, for example. And I'm keen that, and I did check with Claire before coming into this, that actually we can make sure we include provision for water and electricity going forward, so that if that is how we want to move forward, then we're able to do that as well. So thank you very much for your comments and queries, and I'm minded to approve the recommendation, which is to demolish the Drifton City building and implement a public realm improvement scheme as outlined in the report. The final thing I would say to members, and I say this to all 41 of the other councillors, please do come and speak to me well ahead of time, and we can have a greater debate than we can realistically have in these meetings. But I completely appreciate your point of view and 100% understand and can see where you're coming from. I think it's an entirely valid view, but we have debated this considerably within the Regeneration Directorate over the last, well, since I came into post, and it has been the topic of many Tuesday morning meetings. So I'm confident this is the right way forward. At which point, I think we're at the end of the agenda. So thank you very much for everyone's time, and I will see you at the next PRED meeting, if not before.